Now, finally, I'm sorry. I think you've seen me in Twitter complaining about things. So I am Soledad. I work in Mozilla. This is a red panda. We love red pandas. But I'm not going to talk about Mozilla mostly today. I want to talk about music. I really like music, and I can play a little bit of guitar, a little bit of piano, a little bit of everything. Past year, I decided I wanted to play the ukulele, so I just bought this stupid color ukulele because I thought that would be funny. And I bought the tambourine and the harmonic and the shaker. I really don't know how to play any of them really well, but I just enjoy doing that thing, and I keep teaching myself because I've never gone to any music school or anything. Everything I know is self-taught. I really want to highlight that point. In the beginning, I would just try to learn from old books. I would go to my grandma's house and I would get old books from my dad or my mom when they were studying. Apparently, they were learning music. And it was kind of slow learning because you didn't have any teacher saying, this is how you do things. So I would maybe go to the library and try to get some book on music, but it would be history of music, which was good. It's good to know how the Greeks came up with the scales and how pentatonic things work, but still it wasn't about learning to play music. It was about history of music, and it was really frustrating. And I didn't have any instrument either, so I didn't know how to play. So when I got this keyboard, I really started to play music really badly because I didn't have any teacher. And somebody, I think it was my dad, he was like, you can't really go around just pressing keys randomly. So he got me this book on how to play popular songs. So he would have maybe What a Feeling by George Tomorrow there. And I didn't have any sense of rhythm. And you couldn't go to the internet and download the original song to listen as a reference because there wasn't any internet back then. So it would be just like, no. And they were like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm playing this song. It's like, that's not that song. That's horrible. You don't know how to keep sense of rhythm. It's like, well, I don't know. It sounds okay. So it was really slow and frustrating, I guess, from my family. But everything really started accelerating when I got into access to a computer, and I got access to trackers. I don't know if anyone here knows what a tracker is. Yay! So a tracker allows you to distribute your song with the node data, and you can also see all the effects. Those things are the effects which actually make up what the song is about. And the good thing is that once you distribute your song, everyone can open that and see how it's done. And that was my first contact with open music and kind of open source music, because you could learn from each other. And a huge community was built around this thing. I don't know if anyone got into tracks in space back in the 20s. But that was like really amazing. If you got into being the artist of the month, which is somewhere there, it was like huge. It was like going to opera or going to MTV or something. You were like something huge. And it was really amazing to be speaking to people from Berlin or Tel Aviv and that kind of things. It was unusual because so far we had only been speaking to people from our area, and it was a global thing. It was really exciting. And more or less at the same time, I got into this thing called the demo scene. I don't know if anyone's know about the demo scene, but it's basically about size-limited coding. A modern example of this is JS 1K. This screenshot is from the latest edition of JS 1K. It's about creating great things with a little amount of code. And that one in particular is a Minecraft renderer with less than 1,024 characters of code, which is really impressive. So I got into this thing, and I started building my things and collaborating with people. And the part that I really liked more was sound synthesis. So I built my synthesizer with C. And one of my first incarnations would be like 400 Ks of C++ code that would turn into 13 kilobytes of executable code, which is like good compression. And that when you run that thing, you got 2 minutes and 25 minutes of music, which is a good ratio, especially if you think that that's 25 megs of wave. So from 13 Ks of executable code, you get that amount of data generated in real time. So I got that thing in mind. And then WebAudio came, and because it was modular, it was kind of easy for me to just pick all my code and show it into JavaScript audio, or how it was called back then. Some node that would just allow me to do what I was doing in C++, but do it in JavaScript. And I just was like, hey, I done this thing. I ported my JavaScript synthesizer, and I was like, I am the master of the universe. But then I realized that that wasn't really what the web is about. The web is not about telling people go to this page and wait for a little bit of code to load and just wait for 2 minutes of music that's solely composed. That's not what the web is about. The web is about interacting and the user clicking on things and getting a response. So I thought, OK, I need to use more APIs. I need to connect things. I need to let people play with this thing. So I got into building an UI for my synthesizer. So this is the thing that would expose all the parameters that my synthesizer had. People could start changing things, and as they change things, the URL would be updated in real time. And if they liked some result, they could just copy the URL and sell it to a friend, and they would be able to experience the same thing their friend had created. And I was like, this is more like the web. I was like really, really happy. And I was like, yeah, because web is just so easy. I just can connect things together, and it's just easy, right? Or maybe not. So I don't know if all of you have played with web audio, but I just tried to prepare some examples so you kind of see how it works, and then you will be able to continue with the whole thing. So the first thing with web audio is that this is modular, but you need to set a start point, which is the context. So we're going to see. So this is the audio context. I'm going to show you, if nothing breaks, the new web audio inspector in Firefox, which will show you all the nodes that we are building and connecting. And this might break because I think it needs to be run 3 times every time until it starts working. So I'm going to try and do this thing, and it might not work. See, let me try again. 1, 2. Yeah, it works. So only the second time. It might get better. So I just created this destination node, which is actually the speakers. And here's this oscillator node, which is what we want to use to generate some sound. But it's not doing anything because it's not connected. So I built this little kind of editor that allows me to execute things line by line. And it's really funny. So I just connected this thing now. But nothing's playing because it's not connected. I mean, it's connected, but it's not running yet. So we're going to say, hey, start playing. It might be painful. So it's playing, and we don't really like these things. I'll just change the value so it changes. But we can also do things like do it, but in 2 seconds, go back to where we were, and it's like 1, 2 seconds, and it's go back to that. And the other good thing of World is you can connect things together. So the output of one oscillator, we can connect it to the gain node, multiply the value of that, and then connect it to a parameter, so you get wobbly sounds like this, which is kind of spooky. And then I think it's this one. I can change the frequency, the wave shape, so it's a different type of wobbly. It's like so this is the kind of things you're going to start doing with web audio. But this is just using web audio, and it's cool, but it's not interactive at all. So I thought, let's go farther, and let's use more web APIs. So what if you connect the drag and drop API or the file API? I did file API and drag and drop because I wanted this to work with mobile and with desktop browsers. And then you get blobs with those. But web audio doesn't speak blobs. They speak array buffers. So it's easy to port it into array buffers. Then we will use an analyzer node, which is some functionality from web audio that allows you to see what's going on in the scenes. And then we draw a thing in a canvas. And again, I'm just going to use my magic thing. I'm just going to run all the things. And nothing's here because this is what we are playing, but there's nothing happening. So there's just this flat line here. But I'm just going to select some drop. So this is what we loaded, which I just draw here. And this is what we are playing. And because, again, this is editable, you could change things here if you wanted to. Well, what I want to show is that it's actually less than 200 lines of code. And it's lots of functionality in just 200 lines of code. That if you wanted to do the same with C or C++, you have a hard time with formats, connecting things together, drawing. The whole thing would be way, 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 way more than 200 lines of code. I mean, the web platform is really powerful nowadays. But we should even go farther. Let's go big and let's draw lots of things at the same time. So let's mix web audio with WebRTC so we can get input from whatever I'm saying in front of this computer. And using an analyzer node again, we just draw lots of things with WebGL. So we just go wild now. So it's asking me for permission, as it should do. And now if you clap, it should just like go, and you can also do things like changing this thing color for like pink is always necessary. So it gets kind of pinkier, and so you can do that kind of things. Also, something that's interesting about the analyzer code, you can change the amount of smoothing. So it would be smoother now, and it takes longer to forget the previous values. Or it could be faster, like instant response. So this is the kind of things that you can do with WebAudio and WebGL and all the web APIs. But maybe there's still some things that are still needing to be solved. We still have a bit of an issue, and it's not a small issue. We shouldn't really stop until we solve that issue. The issue is that there's 2 billion people that don't have access to the internet. So while this is all cool and great, there's still 2 billion people who can't access the internet at all. 2 billion people is like 2 Europes and a half. That's a lot of Europes. And Mozilla, which is where I work, we think that's not acceptable. And the internet should be an essential thing for everyone, and everyone should be entitled and enabled to access the internet and all the things they can get from the internet. So we're working on things like the Firefox phones. The Firefox OS $25 phones. So people who currently just buy a feature phone can buy one of those things and get access to the internet. And this thing runs JavaScript, which is what Firefox OS is built on. So the other thing that we're doing with Firefox OS is lowering the barrier of entry. That means that you don't need to be a Java or an Objective-C programmer, and you don't need to triplicate your efforts to just be in the market. So the mobile is accessible for everyone, just as the web should be. And the other great thing is that we're enabling more hardware APIs with JavaScript, so we can do way more things with JavaScript. So I was thinking, so if we use these new powers that we've got, we are more responsible, as Uncle Ben would say. So I was trying to think of responsible, good things to do. And I was thinking, what about we simulate instruments? Just think of those kids that want to learn music, as I was trying to learn, but they can't because they don't even have a library or old books because their territory was in a war 2 years ago. So there's this huge list in Wikipedia. It's all the instruments in the world, or almost all of them. It's a huge list. What about we find some way to simulate them, but we just send the parameters, like I did with my synthesizer. So you just send the small amounts of data. And it's very easy to send a thing over a kind of like slow wire, like an edge connection. So it would be interactive. It wouldn't be like me learning about music in old books. It would be something you could play with. And because you've got touch and pressure, you could do things like good enough. And then we could go further. Let's store those settings and share them with people. And maybe people can start remixing the thing. And because they are going to places that we are not used to going, you would get user contributions. When you expose your things to different people from you, you would get different responses and different collaborations. So it's going to be resulting in original things that you didn't expect, and that's so beautiful. So I think, yeah, we should do this thing. And once you get this thing, what's stopping you from building some kind of composer, something that enables you to use those simulated instruments to make music and distribute the thing? But the thing is that we should not use these conventional composers. Conventional composers are based on stuff, like the five lines things, or drum machine, and that's not really good for some types of music in the world. Some music changes tempo and keys often, and that's really hard to kind of transcribe the thing. So my suggestion is that we record everything and then make the data available so people can just build notations using their own expertise and their own expectations. And maybe they are going to be using local symbols that we don't understand, but they would do. And the other great thing about this thing is, again, we are going to end up with a library of local songs, and that's amazing. That's a treasure trove. That's kind of like really great heritage for mankind. And still, I was like, this is cool, but this isn't that super innovative. This is kind of conventional in a way. So I was trying to push it forward. And I was like, what if I take this new API, the WebFM, that allows you to access the radio with JavaScript, and I mix it with WebAudio? What do I get? I think we could get over the FM data transmission. And the bandwidth would be a little bit not too huge a day. So that's like maybe a little bit miserable. But still, that's like 4,000 SMSs. The good thing is that because it's broadcasted, you won't get a slowdown when there are many users. So everyone could be receiving this thing. And there are precedents. There are like local like national news are sending extra data with their program, like, I don't know, short pieces of data, or weather, or that thing you get in your radio when you're in a car. But that's not really useful when you're talking about local communities. My suggestion is that we use this thing for local updates, like status of water tanks or maybe area weather forecast. And in any case, FM transmission doesn't really travel too far. It needs repeaters. So an FM station is actually very local, so that would make sense. And that way we could be broadcasting things that are important for people in that area. And I think that would be more of a better use of web audio than just 3D amazing stuff. But those are just some examples. I might be super hyper wrong because I'm just devising things in my little bubble of privilege. And I don't know, I'm just speaking to you in Lisbon, and I haven't ever been to Africa. What do I know? That doesn't mean that 3D audio games will or won't solve Western issues. I don't know. I have no idea. That doesn't mean that we should stop doing that thing. We have this responsibility. Like Uncle Ben would say, great powers, huge responsibilities. So I think we should teach about this thing. We should make this accessible. We should make it easy to use. And we should also keep experimenting, because this is such a new field. There are no use cases. There's no experience. For many things, you don't really know how to do the thing. So it's on us to devise new things and create new code over which you can build more things and remix more things and kind of like make this thing amazing. So here's this whole thing that is like my new motto. And I think I don't want to do this thing on my own. I want all of you, or as many of you, to play with me and make this thing great. So I think we should this together. And just picture some ukulele inspirational music now in your head, because I don't have any. I'm done. I'm on time. And thanks. And ping me things if you have ideas or want to play with things. And thanks.